Okay, so today we're talking about seeding a lawn. I've got completely bare soil out there ready to put some seed down, and I've got just a bit of a conundrum actually that I just came up with because of the way that I'm doing this project. And so I want to explain that today and also try to come up with a solution to that. And we're just going to talk a little bit about the seeding of Kentucky bluegrass specifically, but kind of seeding in general. So first let me show you what I actually have going on, and then I will explain more about my specific kind of issue or sort of thing that I didn't think about before I started this project. So here it is, our little renovation section over here, and I've just finished the leveling portion, which I had a video on as well if you want to see how I did that part. Today we're ready to put the seed down, and as I said, we have bare soil here now. For the most part, a little bit of the dead grass is left that I sprayed out, so just a little bit of that is there, but for the most part we're dealing with loose soil, and so that brings a few challenges in itself. Now also, I'm taking this into 3 sections, so kind of where you see that plant over there hanging out by the fence line, that section up there is going to be one type of seed. Then to this little sprinkler head and the second post here on the fence, that little section is going to be one seed. And then this one right here, closest to us, is going to be one seed. So I was thinking that was going to be a cool little project, in which it is, to kind of compare different cultivars of bluegrass right next to each other. But I didn't think about the actual seeding part and how to get down the amount of seed that bluegrass puts down, which is very little, in such a small little section. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about Kentucky bluegrass seed and how it might differ a little bit from other seeds. So the main difference is that it's extremely small, and because of that reason, if you're working with it in very small areas and the seeding rate is also low because of that seed size, then it can be a little bit difficult to accurately put down the seed without kind of overdoing it. So basically what can happen then is you just get overcrowding. And with Kentucky bluegrass, we don't want this in general because it's going to spread on its own. So it'd actually be a little bit better for it to be slightly thin and fill in on its own than it would be to be really thick right away and kind of competing on its own against itself for nutrients and all those other things in the soil. So for me, I have 2 sections of 180 square feet here, and then 1 section of 335 square feet. So I didn't really think about this exactly when I thought about doing these test plots, that I would have such a small area to cover, and with bluegrass only being about 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, that comes down to how am I going to spread this on there evenly, and what are the actual rates going to be. I know some of you are going to be thinking this is absolutely ridiculous, just go out there, throw some seed around with your hands, call it good, and that's good enough. And to be honest, we could probably do a pretty good job at hand seeding this. But to show you the correct way, and just to give myself a little more peace of mind that I'm not overdoing anything, I'd like to actually go through it here and measure it out, put it down, and I just know that even coverage is going to be happening because I'm going to be setting my little spreader here on a very low setting and just going over and over and over on that section. So that's a little bit better, in my opinion, than doing the hand method. I know some of you are not going to be interested in doing the math part of it and all of that, but I do want to go over that for those that want to understand it a little bit more. All right, it feels like LCN here doing some math, but I don't have any great coloring skills or writing skills here. So as I mentioned, if you're doing a larger area, then figuring out how much seed you're going to need is pretty easy. So if you got 5,000 square feet and you're wanting to seed at 3 pounds per 1,000, then you need 15 pounds spread evenly across there. That's pretty easy to figure out. But again, what I'm dealing with here is a very small area. So for those just who are interested in figuring that out, we've got 3 pounds over 1,000, and I want to change this 3 to ounces because I know that this is going to be under 1 pound going into my actual spreader here, so just makes it easier to measure that in ounces if you're going to use a scale. So 3 pounds per 1,000, so 3 times 16 ounces in a pound, so 3 times 16 gives us 48. So we cross here and we get 48 times 180, and then we take that divided by 1,000, and that comes out to 8.64 ounces. Basically, if you think about it here, 1 pound would be 16 ounces, so 8.64, very close to just over 8 ounces. So now with that 8.64 ounces that we need to put down on the 180 square feet, I'm going to use a kitchen scale here to actually measure it out. So we take the little cup measure here that I have, we put it on the scale, and this has a tare function so that you can actually remove the weight of the container that you're going to be using. So that zeroes out the scale again. So then we're just going to start scooping some seed into there and putting it on the scale and seeing how much we have. Now I'm going to dump this into my little hand spreader. From there, what happens when you have a spreader like this, or really any spreader that just has that opening at the bottom, if you don't have enough seed flow or fertilizer flow going on, then that's kind of when you get to the end and you're bouncing around the spreader and you're trying to get the last of it out. So in order to avoid this when we're seeding, you don't want a bunch of surges of seed coming out at the end, we're going to add just 1 extra cup here to it. That way at the end I should have 1 cup left when I come back and measure. So what I did before this whole process as well was took 1 cup, put it in the spreader, and I kind of got a visual of what that looked like in there. So that way I know as I'm getting to the bottom of this what that visual of 1 cup left should look like. If you get an idea of how much is in here when you put the cup in beforehand, just get a visual on it. It won't be too hard to get pretty close to that. From there, I just go out, set the spreader on the absolute lowest setting that it goes, which on this one just happens to be a 1. And then we just go to town here, spread and spread and spread until things are looking pretty even. And again, watching how much is left in our little hopper and remembering what that kind of visual looked like when we had close to a cup left. Now that we've had that spread, we come back, we take it and we pour it into the cup thing here and we see how much we have left. So I should have ended up with 1 extra cup here, and I have actually just a little bit left. So next up is going to be spraying some Tenacity. This is basically the only weed preventer that you can use at the time of seeding, and if you're not comfortable spraying or you don't have a sprayer or you haven't really practiced with a sprayer, then I would say probably you want to go with the granular option, which Scott's makes a starter fertilizer with mesotrione in it, I think I said that right, and which is the same active ingredient in Tenacity. So you can get a granular version. I've not tried it myself, but I have seen some people that have used it with pretty good results. I'm gonna go put down a layer of that onto the seed before we get ready to put down some seeding blankets, which is also different for me this time. I'm typically a peat moss guy, and I was up until yesterday when I decided that looking at all those slopes over there and a thunderstorm on the way probably tomorrow, that I might need to rethink my decision. So I'll explain that here in a second. Now here I'm only going to be using 1/2 of a teaspoon. So this little thing, the measuring tool that comes with it, tells you how to do that, also into how many gallons of water. So and I don't have full 1,000 square feet to cover, but I kind of have trained myself for a certain walk speed, so I should be pretty close to that. And we should have about 1/4 of a gallon left when I'm done. Alright, so we have the seating blanket down. This is the Futerra netless blanket. And so what it kind of feels like is it honestly kind of feels like sawdust put into a blanket form. So once this thing is down and it's wet, it will be kind of bonded to the soil as far as what I've read about it. And the stats on it were pretty impressive as far as how much rain it could take and how much it could withstand. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens here. On camera, I don't know really if this slope shows as much as it kind of really is in real life, but last year when I did some seeding over here, I was using ryegrass with the ability to continually put it down once things washed out, and I still had some difficulty holding on this slope here. So this year I decided with bluegrass, I'm not going to waste my time in putting down a bunch of loose soil and seed on top of it and rolling that in and then watching it all wash away. So I decided to do this option, and I'll let you know how it goes.